Well, the markets are sinking today, hitting a 6-month low as President Trump blasts China's, quote, currency manipulation on Twitter. Now, based on the historic, based on historic currency manipulation by China, it is now even more obvious to everyone that Americans are not paying for the tariffs. China has always used currency manipulation to steal our businesses and factories, hurt our jobs, suppress our workers' wages, and harm our farmer prices. Not anymore. Joining me now, Trump economic advisor Steve Moore, the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Well said. I mean, you got it exactly right, Charles. By the way, can you name any country in the history of the world that ever got rich by devaluing their currency? I mean, it's not a very good economic strategy. No, I mean, it just doesn't work. And the fact is, in response to the tariffs, they're devaluing their currency, which means that the Chinese are bearing the cost of these products, these tariffs, not American consumers. Now, I'm not defending the tariffs.
Sure,
I mean, we've seen a big sell-off. But this idea that Goldman Sachs put out this ridiculous, idiot report yesterday saying, oh, the American consumers are bearing the whole cost of this. Like, what are they talking about? If they devalue their currency, that means that something that used to cost $10 now costs $9. You put the 10% tariff on, it costs what it did before, and China bears the cost.
Right.
Okay?
And that's not even...
that's just math,
right? And that's not even getting to the point where these Chinese exporters have to lower their prices anyway.
Absolutely.
They're talking to the U.S. counterparts, and they're saying, I'm not going to pay $1 for that LOL doll. I'll give you 90 cents for it.
If the Chinese could just, pass the cost on to the consumers of a 10% tariff, or in some cases 25% tariffs, they would do it. They would just raise their prices.
Sure.
But they can't do it.
We wouldn't have this conversation.
I get so angry because there's such a deficient economics here that's being discussed. Now, I don't think Trump had any idea that the stock market was going to 1,000 points, from these tariffs. I think they're spooked over there at the White House.
I mean, he had to know that the market would have an adverse
some
reaction.
Effect, but I don't think they expected this. And, there was, the Wall Street Journal report was true today that there was an internal conflict on this, Charles, that, you had the Larry Kudlows and the Mulvaney's who basically said, wait a minute here, this
They're more traditionalists, though. I mean, they're more traditionalists with respect to economic orthodoxy, being conservatives. They don't like tariffs anyway, to be honest with you. But many have conceded that in this particular case, being China, we never had a really fair trade anyway. It was never a free trading situation.
Yeah, that's where I am. Look, I don't like steel tariffs. I don't like auto tariffs. But you're dealing with a country now. Let's say this is not a free economy. This is a totalitarian government. It's central planned. They've become a menace, and we're going to have to fight them one way or the other. My advice to the president has been, look, get the best deal you can from now with China so we can go to 2020 with a strong economy. You get reelected, and then you spend your second term. I mean, what worries me, Charles, is that if this hurts the economy, that hurts his chances of getting reelected, and then that has a negative feedback effect, possibly.
That article you referenced with the infighting, now, many are saying, hey, you've just got Peter Navarro's like the lone person in the circle arguing for...
They're leaving out somebody.
Lighthizer?
Donald J. Trump.
Oh, okay.
I mean, look, so let's face it. I mean, Donald J. Trump is not a conventional free trade guy.
Right.
I mean, he thinks like this, and I've had many discussions with him about this. I mean, he believes that China is going to have to fold here because it is hurting our economy. It's killing their economy. But the problem is we're not dealing with rational people in Beijing. I mean, the rational thing for them to do would be to make a deal with Trump. Both economies would benefit. There's nothing Trump is asking the Chinese to do that is unreasonable, right?
Well, their goal, to this world domination, it relies heavily on the ability to continue to steal our intellectual property.
Well, that means, that they're incapable of producing innovation and technology. Maybe not.
Maybe not at the pace that they want.
Yeah.
Because I think they are capable.
Well, here's the thing. Because they have no respect for intellectual property, this is actually hurting their own research and development because the Chinese companies are stealing from other Chinese companies. So, it's bad for the world economy when you have the second largest economy in the world that is not respecting intellectual property rights. That reduces innovation, that reduces technology, that reduces research and development spending. It's bad for everybody. And Trump is fighting the good fight here, no doubt about it. But boy, this is painful. I mean, my gosh, we've seen $1 trillion loss in the stock market over the last couple of days.
Then, so far we've seen tweets, and they've all revolved around currency manipulation, but nothing about the next potential move from the White House. China has been very aggressive in the last 12 hours or so, between the manipulation of currency, removing exemptions on tariffs on American farm goods, not buying more farm goods. Some people argue that they really haven't been anyway. it feels like they're playing all of their cards, though, at once.
This is escalating. There's no doubt about it.
But it's escalating, and now the ball's back in our court. What happens?
I don't see Trump backing down. No, Donald Trump doesn't back down.
Does do 10% possibly go to 25% then?
I don't know,
tariffs?
I honestly don't know. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question. But I don't see Trump capitulating. Do you? I mean, you've known him.
No,
I've known him for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, he believes this is the fight, the epic battle of our time. And he happens to be right about that. I mean, this is the new Cold War we're in, for better or for worse, and we can't lose. The worst possible outcome, for those who are watching this in the stock market, the worst possible outcome for America and the future of our economy is to capitulate. We can't give it to China at this point.
Yeah.
We just can't.
Yeah. So you talked earlier about small victories in front of the 2020 election. Mm-hmm. It felt like President Trump was working toward that, but even there, the promises of buying more ag and stopping fentanyl, even on those what I think are low-hanging fruit, exactly. The Chinese reneged on.
You're exactly right, and that's what's so frustrating to all of us. We're dealing with irrational people over there, and that makes it really difficult to get a deal. And apparently they're willing to hurt their own companies, their own people. Somebody asked me earlier, well, gee, this is so obvious that it's hurting their own people. They don't care. This is a totalitarian government. They believe in power, and they believe the way they keep their power is to take a very high line with the United States. But don't forget, Charles, just as there are many camps here about the right strategy, there are also many camps in Beijing.
Right.
And let's hope President Xi, deals with the people who want to make a deal and make both countries better.
No need for a Pyrrhic victory, right? For either side.
You got it.
Steve, thank you very much.
Thanks.